It looks like it's 6 o'clock. So I will open the meeting of the Enfield Select Board. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of 2 meetings, February 15th and February 24th. I didn't see any problem with them.
I didn't either.
I found a couple just minor.
I saw one.
Okay. I go first, so I'll find mine.
In the town manager's report
Are you on the 15th?
from the 15th.
Yeah,
Let's find where it's at. Had it highlighted. in- Oh, it was I guess the end of page 1. In the last line, it says Enfield, the model of how to deal with invasive species.
mhm.
It should be that the community plans their work in Enfield as a model of how towns can deal with invasive species.
So we're not going to be the invasive species expert for the entire Upper Valley.
But
Well, I'm
not.
hoping who we hire knows how to deal with invasive species already.
Yeah.
It's just creating a model for other towns to follow.
Oh,
February 15th, page 2. There's, gosh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 bullets down, the very last sort of the 4th bullet. Tice is spelled incorrectly, so let's have that say THEIS.
On the last,
oh,
oh, I
yes.
see. Well, yeah, like twice.
Mr. Morris stated the work in progress.
Yeah, it's spelled correctly. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I caught one of the misspellings. So I usually help.
Okay. And I'm fine other than that.
Okay.
I would make a motion that we approve those subject minutes as amended.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now the select board meeting, that was the quickie of, or what it was, the 24th of February.
24th, yeah. I move that we accept minutes of February 24th.
I
She made the-
I made motion to
the
do
motion
both.
to
Oh,
Oh, both?
oh,
As long as you're okay with it, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh,
fine.
okay.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so you have a motion. I'm sorry, Kate, I must have been.
No,
out
that's
to
okay. I
lunch.
made a motion to do both, and we, John
Okay.
seconded, and then you called the vote. and
Okay,
we
so we're
voted in
done.
affirmative. Yep, we're good.
Okay,
Yeah.
We're in good shape.
board reports.
Nothing from me?
The planning board meeting that would normally be on the 8th is canceled due to having no plan submissions. And the second meeting of the month will be had because it's a requirement and we have plenty there. Also,
Heritage, to back up, I went for the planning board with a proposal to create the Enfield Center Historic Triangle. I've since received a series of questions from David Frack, which I think I've answered. I also received a letter, an email from Harry Trumbull saying that the Board of Trustees of the Union Church voted unanimously to support a local historic district in Enfield Center. The Historical Society had already given their approval. I suppose I should get letters from both of these organizations just to be on the safe side. At the Heritage Commission, we simply, once again, discussed the historic triangle ad nauseum. Lakeside Park. It was an interesting meeting because we got Zoom bombed. bomb, yeah, Zoom bomb. Yeah, apparently he isn't through with Enfield either. Um, Nothing really to report there, except that it's ongoing. We're making plans for spring. Patty Freed has ordered some plants from the Grafton County Extension and has Henry Holmeyer and Cindy Heath lined up to come and advise for free, always for free, I have to say. She's planning a work day, which is, we're trying to work around town meeting, so town meeting is the 30th, and then there's Mother's Day, so I'm not really sure when that's going to happen. But in order to have the hypotherm fire volunteers, it has to be a weekday, so it may be not a weekend, this first weekday. So that's about it. Ed? Town
Yes.
managers report.
Thank you. Wanted to give you a few updates as I normally do. Updates from Public Works. We have made an offer and we have a new hire coming on. Todd Gamel has been hired as a light equipment operator and will be starting work on March 14th. So that's one of the much needed positions we were able to fill. Along with that, we had hired a building and grounds maintainer, I believe, last year, and working with Jim, we're going to make a promotion there to light equipment operator. So those positions will be filled, and we're currently reviewing and creating a posting to post the position for building and grounds maintainer, hopefully to hire before spring. So that's where we're at on hiring in DPW. I am happy to announce the McConnell well, after being out of service for 14 months due to supply chain issues, is back on duty, and it's working. So we'll have the backup pump there. It's not our main water source, but it is a good backup to have. So it's back on.
How deep is that well? Ed, do you have any idea?
I don't have any clue.
Is that normally our primary? I'm trying to remember.
No,
which
that's
one.
a secondary.
That's our
backup.
secondary that we only put up to 20% into the supply.
Yeah, one thing they are looking at right now is pricing a backup pump for our primary well.
Yep.
After having this long of a downtime
Yeah.
with supply chain, they thought it'd be a good idea to have one on hand in case something happens. So we will be working on that as well.
Were the well upgrades included in that first round of water? I feel like we were addressing some of the well issues in our first round of water funding. Last year.
Not sure if we were-
I think that-
just can't recall exactly what it
Yeah,
is.
I feel like it's in, because it was a tiered plan. Let's see, it's the water study, I'll call it.
Take me back to you too.
Yeah, that would be good, because I believe that we have that built in, some of that built into the plan. And if we could do it as part of a larger buy, we may or may not see savings. But if you can get them, take them. As somebody who just tried to buy some stuff.
Other than that, as of today, Enfield has posted the roads for 6-ton weight limit. And then contact Jim here at the Public Works facility if you need to talk to him about getting a truck over that weight down our road. And they'll work with you the best we can. Little update on the Grafton County Broadband Committee. The committee was not successful in our NTIA grant for 26 million. Actually, nobody in the state of New Hampshire got any money for that grant. But we did immediately, or I should say Nick Coates from Bristol, the chair of the committee, immediately contacted Senator Hassan's office, and we got in touch with NTIA. They said we had a really strong application. And I guess we're making a little bit of assumptions there, but later this year, a middle mile grant is coming out with a lot more money in it, which is what we were looking for. So we're planning on moving forward with that, and we're going to be talking to the county commissioners this Thursday about getting some more of their ARPA funds to complete the engineering, so we have a shovel-ready project before the grant time comes.
Well, you know, when we got the Northern Borders grant, they told us the same thing. It looks good. You just didn't make it this time. Make sure you resubmit.
Yeah.
We did and got it the second time.
Yeah, and this next grant is actually dedicated for exactly what we're trying to
Yeah.
do. So it looks good, but we didn't get the first round, but we're continuing to work forward. I just want to give you a little update. I have put on we're putting on the April 4th Select Board agenda, presentation of firefighter 1 certifications for 2 of our firefighters. Something we really haven't done in the past, but I'm working with Fire Chief Neely, and we thought it'd be good to award and to recognize those firefighters that put that extra work in and got that certification. So
Absolutely.
we will be here to do that, and we'll have a little show that goes along with it. So wanted to make sure the select board was part of that. Another one, I sent you an email today. Our hazard mitigation plan was approved by the Department of Safety, Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. It's been completed. It completed its review and approved it. I said that. With this approval, the jurisdiction meets local mitigation planning requirements under 44 CFR 201 if the plan's approved by the select board. So I sent the copy to you today, and we'll put it on the next agenda for approval. Thought it would be good to give you some time to digest that thing. It's pretty long. The facilities project, I don't know if you guys heard any talk or have watched it, but we worked last week and we were able to put together a video of the police department and just kind of a little video tour. And Chief Holland worked with Eric Russell to talk about some of the things that are shortcomings of that facility. We were supposed to video today, but something came up. So a little bit later this week, we're going to be doing the fire department and the EMS building as well. And then in the future, we're hoping to complete one of Whitney Hall, and we're also going to tour the Sunapee Public Safety Facility, I believe, to just show what's out there, what we have and what's available. And then we've also been discussing, but haven't set a date yet for having like an open house with all of the buildings open on one evening or one weekend, so people can travel around and look at them themselves. So we continue to work on that, and we'll have some more discussions in the future, and our public hearing will be April 4th. So we'll have some more discussions about the facilities coming up. I wanted to just take a moment to thank Dolores Truckoff and Meredith Smith for the vigil that was coordinated last night. It was a really good time to come together. It was a powerful and moving event, and it was great to see that many people out there, even in some not so great weather. So just thank you to them and all the speakers and the police, fire, and EMS personnel that were watching out for safety. It was a good coordinated event, and a lot of people were helping make it happen.
Yeah, and I know they really appreciate the efforts of the town employees to be helpful. in
Yeah,
that
and
regard.
they work pro bono,
Yeah,
which, that shows a wonderful camaraderie from a fire department that wasn't in that place a year or so ago.
No, it was great. So, and then the only other thing I wanted to update, as you mentioned, we had a visitor at our Lakeside Park meeting. We also had the same visitor at the Conservation Commission meeting. So we've had a couple of those in the last week. With that, I was working with Elisa. I've talked to Rob, and we're doing just a little bit of investigating. I think we're going to be looking at moving towards Microsoft Teams, which is a little bit more secure. Plus, it's cheaper. We already own Teams, and we're paying Zoom about $300 a year to have 2 Zoom accounts. So we'll be doing a little bit of research, making sure we know how to set up the right security provisions moving forward, and we'll talk with the select board with some of the security provisions. A few of the meetings, Conservation Commission maybe being one, with a little bit of lack of technological aptitude on those boards. We may need to set those up so you can log in and watch it, but unless you're on the board, you won't be able to actively participate unless you're here in person. But I still think it's good to have that available so people can see what's going on in the commissions and boards and look at them. But we definitely need to do something so we don't continue having.
Isn't it a
Inappropriate
criminal act,
care.
what he's doing, this guy?
I'm sure it is, but it's extremely hard to
I
catch them
see.
and they'll use
I'm sure
different
they
accounts and
VPN
fake
themselves in and
accounts.
ping themselves off something else, so you'll
Yeah,
never.
so
compare.
it's almost impossible to catch them, but Zoom seems to be the platform where it all
Yeah.
happens. You know, Teams and some of those other places have more security measures in place to stop it.
Filtering
also-
out the Looney Tunes?
Yeah, it also has a lot more controls that we can access, so
Mhm.
we just need to do a little bit of work, a little bit of training to make sure staff understands fully how to use it, and then we'll be switching over.
And Teams can actually be run remotely by someone else, so you could have somebody who wasn't physically present running the meeting. If you were appointing an employee, you can also do some driving with the mouse, and so I've used it quite a bit. I know it's not necessarily as popular as Zoom is, but it does work quite well.
Yeah.
And it's very good for co-working.
It's interesting, KUA lives on Zoom practically, and we've never had such an issue. I don't know whether,
It's when you have public
It's the
passwords.
open public meeting, the
Ah.
open public links.
yes,
You know, if you have a
Right.
private Zoom
we do
meeting,
not have
not a
that,
problem.
exactly. Good point.
and that's the end of my manager's report.
I sent to you the, it looks like, so obviously the years are incorrect because we didn't start the first year for the water, but the new production, we were supposed to drill a new production well.
Yeah.
For $250. So not saying we don't need a pump, but that's on the agenda coming right up. That would be great.
Yeah, the new well will have a pump too.
Let's hope it has great water.
I'm a big believer in Dowsers myself. Okay. The award of the non-native invasive species management plan, it looks like they have done an extensive presentation here.
Yeah, I meant to have a cover letter on here, but I didn't. I did send it to Kate because it has the motion on it, but we received 5 submissions as a town. All of them were very good. They look, I mean, any of those companies would have done a good job. So when Jack Wozmack was still here as interim town manager, we had a discussion during my first week. We looked over the 5 proposals and we decided to go back out, as I told you, for a supplemental to get us some costs and timelines of what people thought they would do. We received the supplementals back, and again, Jack wanted to be a participant in that. He really loves this project.
Yeah.
So I sent him all the submissions and we individually scored them separately, and then we talked and we both came to the agreement that we thought Du Bois and King was probably the best one. Instead of just coming to you with that at that time, I set up an interview with Du Bois and King, and I talked to the head person, Gail, that's going to be in charge of the project, and then one of her supervisors over her, talking about what we were trying to get out of the project, what we were looking at. You may notice the price tag in there. I think it was 38,000 and we budgeted 30,000. We talked about bridging into next year to make sure that we can afford that, and they were more than accommodating to work with us in our budget to move forward. So
Wait, I missed that price because I saw the bottom line price of over like the many years. But
85,000.
yeah, I know that's not.
Yeah, and they were really good. One thing I did like about theirs is a lot of their stuff's that if needed.
Yep.
You know, they don't plan on billing us and walking through this unless we absolutely need their assistance. So
Like I must have. So busy reading in there. Is it right at the beginning?
I don't actually see it up here.
Because I found the 85 and I
Maybe.
see their.
Oh,
like
I
their
know what
Gantt chart.
I know what I did. I took their
Either took their Gantt chart.
hourly rate
Yep.
and I times it by what they were gonna do in 2022.
Gotcha.
Added it down and it ended up at like 38,000 instead of 30. And we talked, and so instead of providing the report December 31st, we might get it January 31st instead, to make sure that we can stay within our budget.
I noticed there was no mention of Japanese knotweed, which is where this all originated, and I looked it up as Japanese knotweed. and also as bamboo, which is the local term, I guess, for it. But I saw a heavy focus on wetland grass, which I know we have some, but I just was interested in to see, is that their specialty, do we know, or they're
Well, and we
aware?
talked about that. They're aware and
Okay.
they know all the different invasive species.
Okay. Yeah, I just was like, oh, they didn't call out the one we were really gunning for.
Well, and we can work with,
That's fine.
we can work with others as we do, but they've worked with it before and they know what we're
Perfect.
doing.
Knotweed is certainly the most dangerous right now.
We're sort of inundated. So I have the motion here, but I wanted, do we need an up to motion, or do we need a dollar amount motion? I guess typically we do.
You can put the total amount in there if
Contract.
you want. It's a
I
multi-year
put- yeah.
contract and that price is gonna change. I did write them today. They sent me a draft contract. And I wrote them back and said I would like the price in an addendum that we would renew on a year-to-year
Okay.
basis.
So I would make the motion that we authorize the town manager to enter a contract with Dubois and King Incorporated for the inventory, mapping, and creation of control plan of non-invasive species on town land, and to authorize future contracts for the implementation and monitoring of this plan on an as-needed basis. The initial amount would be up to $40,000. Is it just you can call it?
I would just do the full thing if you guys are
Oh,
okay
do
with
the
that.
full? Do you want it?
In an amount
Okay.
not to exceed
In an amount not
$85,000.
to exceed $85,565.
I'll second that. Any discussion before we vote?
I think this is
Okay.
a really important.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay, move forward with those invasives.
We'll get on it. I think their plan for the contract was to start in April. So
Yeah.
we'll be working with that.
Policy review, capital reserve, policy, debt management, and building records.
You skipped over the DWI funding.
is that
Oh, I'm
new?
sorry.
This is water
I
versus sewer.
see.
You did sewer.
Okay. Authorized borrowing for
Where's the, I know, I'm
DW.
having a hard time. finding
There's
it.
nothing in the
The
packet.
second thing's down.
Oh, it's, okay, you know me, I'm not very good at this. Oh, no, on the
Yeah.
cover, but where's the backup language?
It's the water, what we've been talking about. In a way.
I don't have it. Let me pull it up. I sent you a motion for the sewer one last time.
I know,
The borrowing for the water would be 1.8 million total, because there's 100,000 that was slated to come from the water capital reserve fund.
I just searched this entire document for ARPA and I see in the minutes and in the agenda, but I was looking to see if we had it.
I
Usually there's-
don't have a dollar amount for ARPA.
Oh.
I have not seen one myself. But any and all ARPA funds that we can get for this would be good.
So we're approving an SRF loan.
Yes, and acceptance of any ARPA funding that might come through that's applicable to this project. Can we do that?
Is the total amount 1.8 million?
That's the borrowing, yes.
How about, do you want me to, I have the last one. Okay, I move we authorize the town manager to borrow up to an amount, I'm sorry,
Up to one.
up to $1.9 million for water systems improvements. Is that correct language? Okay,
1.8 million.
1.8 or 1.9?
1.8. The
1.8.
whole project's 1.9, but we're
Yeah.
taking 100,000 from the water
Gotcha. Okay.
reserves.
1.8. As approved by the voters of Enfield on May 1st, 2021 from New Hampshire, yes, no? Clean water,
State.
or,
Drinking water state revolving fund.
got it. And to accept American Rescue Plan Act grant funds in an amount of up to,
We don't have an amount for that.
1.8 million.
Yeah, 1.8 million, because
Whatever they want to give us.
yep, for the same, and hereby authorize the town manager or his designees to take such actions and execute all documents that may be necessary.
It works for me if it works for you guys.
Worked for me.
So
Thank you.
same thing, we're looking at taking out an SRF loan, and then we're hoping to get some sort of ARPA funds and anything else they'll give us to offset the cost.
So I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, now we move down to the policy reviews. This is nice the way they're all organized on a separate piece of paper.
I have questions. I know you're surprised. And I think they're easy questions, like just, we're gonna start at the top, I'm assuming, on the capital reserve policy.
I would do one at a time.
Yeah,
And so just in terms of, from an operation standpoint, in looking at the percentages set, so I would flip to the second page, number 3. At least 70% of corresponding capital reserves funds cumulative liabilities, i.e. debt service, and, so the general rules, I just want to make sure that those are reasonable still and that you are comfortable with them.
Have you looked into those at all? We did that on the debt management one today. I didn't go.
So
real
you know
deep
the
into
answer
this
to
one.
the next question I'm gonna ask, yeah,
So
because I just want to make sure we're not
No.
boxing you into unreasonable expectations.
I have not, but I think that fairly good on the CIP capital reserve fund is really the only one.
Yeah.
to worry about. So I think that we're fairly good on that.
I'm fine with the capital reserve policy, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, and if we do find an issue, we'll bring it back to you.
Okay.
so do you want to make a motion to
I will
approve
make,
the capital reserve policy?
I will make a motion that we reaffirm the capital reserve policy.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Okay, so capital reserve is done. Debt management.
If you want a detailed explanation, I'll just jump your question. I can turn it over to Elisa, but we did look at the debt ratios
Yep.
on the back. And 2 of the 3 were at least still good
Yep.
with. The one thing that, after talking, the one thing we decided today that we think it's okay to go ahead and approve this policy, but we do want to do some research throughout the next year, looking at the state of New Hampshire and the Government Finance Officers Association, and looking at what their recommendations for debt are.
Okay.
And if we find something that we feel needs to be changed, we'll bring it back.
And when, this is the.
That makes
principal and
sense.
Interest payments, right, it's the principal and interest payment
Yeah.
for that year versus the budget of that.
Yeah, the other
Okay.
concern we had, which I don't think is not worth renewing this, is how we break out, the TIF district and the water and the sewer. And, if we lump all those together, we're not gonna make these, and we will have no opportunity to use that really. But I think we need to look at best overall general practices and look at how we can quantify each one of those so we know we're staying within the proper debt limits. And
Right, and those are funds. I know that they run out of the same general ledger at the end of the day, but those are funds that really shouldn't be slushing between each other.
yeah, I had her run these numbers in the general fund
Yep.
because it's talking about total valuation, which leads to, okay, what is taxation going to be paying? Where
Right.
the other 2 are user fees, and then the TIF district is pretty self-supporting.
I'll make the motion that we reaffirm the debt management policy.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now the building rentals.
Can you really fit 16 people in the Whitney Hall conference room?
Well,
Not during COVID.
I know.
If there is food in there, the answer is yes.
That is, the maximum occupancy was provided by Phil Neely when he was building inspector. He did the calculation.
Okay, all right.
So technically that is it.
I remember when we used to have our meetings there, it was
Yeah, And people were out in the
cramped.
hall.
In the hall,
Yeah.
yes.
You had to take turns when, if you had something on the agenda, you waited in the hall and got called in when it was time. Elisa, I'd like to ask, I see the Enfield Center Townhouse is not available for rental.
Right.
Why?
Because if we took it off the list, like people needed to have, I don't, if it's ready for rental now, nobody has informed me if it's available. at this
Well-
point. Is it cleaned out so that it can be?
Well, it's, clean is a stretch. But the structural repairs have been taken. It have been accomplished. So it's no longer deemed to be unsafe and condemned, really. But if you remember, we used to have the August Select Board
Yes.
meeting in the townhouse.
Mhm.
Not that I think there's going to be anybody that wants to rent it, but we do plan to use it from time to time for town functions.
Well, we can do that anytime we want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whether we rent it to people is another issue.
So I think we have to lay out an entirely separate policy in which they'd also have to have approval for parking from the parties in the neighborhood, right? Because there's
You
no
figure
parking.
they're
Well,
on their
that's
own
what
for
we've
parking.
always done.
No,
For instance,
right, but we have to have it stated in outline, so we couldn't just talk, it's
Yeah.
not like a regular one where we've done a pretty extensive.
the only thing we've had there, the only real function was the old home day dance back in 2016, just before the building was condemned. And we worked with the Union Church. They very generously offered their parking and their toilets. So it worked out well. And we're trying to encourage this three-way participation with the Historical Society, the church, and the town.
Well, the question is, does the board want to rent it for private use or just use it for town functions?
I think we'll
They're
cross
still
that
there.
bridge when we come to it.
So
Yeah.
at this point, it's on the list because it's not
Yeah.
forever
I like the
necessarily,
no
but-
wood stove rule.
Jimmy Proctor used to host some.
Every
pretty good
year,
parties
Christmas
New
there.
Year's
party.
Eve.
I've
Yeah.
been to birthday parties there. It was a long time ago, but.
But I
think
agree,
it's
right
ideal.
now, it should, I think it should be just the town.
Yeah.
And this is
Someday
where
it might be a nice little extra venue for
Right.
us, but
Yeah.
why not? But
No,
yeah.
I was just curious if there had been another issue that popped up that I didn't know about.
No.
I just had a couple items like on the applicant's checklist. Just housekeeping. Space in between, on the first bullet, between all and dishes. And I think there's an extra line unless we lost something. on the
Yeah,
No, there
checklist.
is, there
Extra
is
check
something
mark.
that's missing there. isn't
Is there
there?
something that's missing?
I
Okay,
don't know, but there's an extra box.
it's either missing something that used to be there or it's, so I didn't want to.
It could be. This
Um,
is just a reminder to people what they need to do, because we used to have them sign off on it. and leave
So
it in
I
kitchen,
like
and
the
they
sign
didn't.
off. I honestly think, here's my take on it, because this is a great form, right? We put the onus on the next person as well to say, I received this in not great condition. If you had two sets of check boxes, ostensibly, you say, I received it in good condition, sign, date, I returning it in good condition, and the next person is, because it is,
Yeah, I'd be careful.
okay,
with
well,
So
I'm
I'm
telling you,
not
it is
sure.
dirty all the time.
I
and
don't-
we've got to do something about
The
it.
problem is that
Filthy.
in spite of the fact that I tell people that they should contact me in any way possible, email, that's date and time stamped, picture from their phone, send it off to us, that's stamped. And leave a message on my phone. Nobody does it until after the event has happened, and then they say there's a problem. Well, are they covering for themselves because they did it, or was it really there before?
Yeah, every
So,
time I get it. dirty.
I have a hard enough time getting anybody to read the rules,
Mhm.
even though I say, read the rules. For it, you know, so.
Maybe we need to create a test that they have to
Well, the
pass
one thing
before-
That's
that
an
I can,
idea.
one thing I can add is we're in the budget is a facilities person,
Yeah.
and that'll be part of their job is to check that on a regular.
Yeah, I
basis.
think that's the key right
Yeah.
there.
And that is what we've been missing for a while.
And
We
yeah.
used to have some.
Bridget and I have cleaned it so many times.
I
like-
used to do it on my own. And
Yeah.
there was dirty silverware in the drawer with all the clean,
Oh,
and I would
God.
just have to
Oh, God.
rewash all of it.
Oh, yeah. No, and I mean, it's,
And
I
that
understand
was-
people are in a hurry to get out. I think the other thing that would help that's not there, so we're offering the option for recycling and trash, right? And then we tell people no open containers as a society and as a state. and there's nowhere to put the recycling. So if you take the bag of recycling into your vehicle and you don't have a trunk, you really aren't supposed to have like beer bottles sloshing around the back. Right?
Have you told people to take, I don't know that we've told people to take their recycling.
Okay,
Did
I
we
don't
say
know.
that
Do you
in there?
have
I know
anybody,
that the
do you have
trash we tell
anybody
them to
going,
do that.
I feel like nobody goes, there's like no guarantee, like if no one's checking to see if it's clean, is anyone actually gonna take out the recycling? So that a lot of that goes in the dumpster, which is sad.
I'm sure it does.
Um,
Once we have a building facility person, they can also take care of the recycling.
yeah, I just think it's one of those things, you know, I
At
don't
least
want
watch it.
people like drinking and driving, certainly, but I also don't want somebody who's trying to do the right thing to have an episode.
As for the cleaning, wouldn't it be easier to just report, have a company that if you're renting the building, you have to hire this company when you leave to make sure it's up to snuff? That's how they handle it in timeshares and things like that.
It would get quite expensive for people to use it.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be over $100 probably to.
I promise you that kitchen sparkles after my mom goes through it. She does better than any cleaning company.
I think it's,
Would she like to be hired?
No, she does not want to be. She's kind of sick of scrubbing it.
I say we just look and have our facilities
Okay.
person. I don't know that
Hope
they'll
for
be
the
able to
best.
go after every single event, but
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
can check up on most of
Yeah,
them.
I mean, and Bridget and I found that the beer, we were like,
Oh, yes, I emailed her about that.
'Cause that was like,
What
we
was
were-
left in the refrigerator?
yeah, but
Yes.
it was after a town function had been in there before us too. We were like,
But there was some other function before that, but I did mention it to her and I knew that the next group was going to have alcohol and they had insurance, so I said, take it. And they
It was
did.
handled.
it was handled.
It was handled.
No, it's just funny. It's definitely, and I think it's not, that wasn't intentional, right? You go to get out of the building and you use the bridge.
okay, so do we
I'm
approve these building rental rules?
I mean, so I know that in the past, like, it's sometimes they get modified by the town manager's office and sometimes by the board of selectmen, but where these are rules, it seems like an operations function. I
I
mean,
would
if we're
agree.
fine with it, I think you guys should be doing it.
I would be thrilled.
Is
Yeah,
that cool?
Would
I
be
mean, now that it's
much
not
easier.
COVID, I think that we should be interceding in general rules.
I agree.
We can make that.
So, motion to approve.
I think if we're not gonna give it back to them.
We're just gonna toss it back to
Yeah.
them, so
Yeah.
we don't need a motion, okay?
Yeah, because
fine.
they've done it in the past. I think we really only started getting into it
Okay.
after,
Well, we did minor things,
Minor ones.
actually. You did the major ones.
but I think
But
This
we can
is-
come back to you if we feel like we need to.
if you need
That's okay.
support or something, then sure.
Approve the 32 Johnson Street, 14 lot 5 agreement.
Okay, so we have a couple houses left down there. We've had some property down there. And when we received that from the state, which was, they received from the railroad, we received it with an agreement that we would allow the people that had camps down there to maintain their camps and
Right.
keep using them
Right,
until they pass. They're not allowed to pass them on to anybody else or sell it to anybody else. So I've been working with Nancy Sanborn, and Jack was working with her before I got here. She's written the town a letter dated October 11th, I believe, that stated that she no longer was going to be able to pay the taxes, and she was kind of giving up her rights to that.
okay.
I talked with Attorney Jim Raymond, and we looked through the deeds, we looked through everything to figure out what we legally needed to do to move forward. He wrote me a new deed authorizing, or from her to authorize pretty much giving all rights to the town. And I just wanted to get select board approval to move forward with that and to get that, and then it would become town property moving forward.
I just have two questions, because we have the other, is it parcel 4 that we own as well? I mean, that we have full.
We own them. I don't
Authority
know
over.
exactly which one. we
This, I
still
think this
have
is the
some.
middle one, but we had some issues that were brought to us about trespass and buildings and what we were gonna do to secure. So,
Yeah,
Just-
buildings that were in derelict condition or a building.
yeah, because,
anyhow.
and we aren't in any position to rent. I just want to be clear, like, we don't want to get into the rental business.
Mhm.
But I also want to make sure that we are doing some kind of monitoring to make sure it doesn't turn into a problem fast. I'm fine with the agreement. It's just, I wanted to bring that up because it was an issue before.
So she's giving up all her rights in exchange for being forgiven for the past property taxes.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking that we do.
Okay.
I mean,
Yep, I would make a motion to authorize the town manager to offer to abate all past due and future taxes for 32 Johnston Drive at map 14, lot 5, in exchange for all deeded rights to the property as required by the agreement with the state of New Hampshire in the land transition dated December 2001.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
All right. Then we have to decide what we're gonna do with it.
I think
Well,
it's RFP land.
I would wait. We'll monitor it, but we still have one more down there, and then I say we look at the whole chunk. And we can discuss that as we move forward of what we want to do with that.
They don't make
area.
any lake frontage.
But-
They don't give away lake frontage.
You don't, it'd be hard to build there. There is some
Yeah.
possibility, but we can have some discussions. There's a few ideas floating around of what we can do.
Authorize the town manager to apply for leadership Upper Valley. And Kim Quirk did that 3 years ago.
Yeah, so this is one of those things, and I wrote it in my write-up. I don't really need select board approval to
Mhm.
apply and go, but
It's just informative.
yeah, and then
Good
one of
idea.
the ideas is, or one of the application steps is to get 2 letters of recommendation. And I thought it would be good as a coming from the town to participate in
Okay.
Leadership Upper Valley to have a letter written by the select board as one of my recommendations.
So would you like me to write that letter? And, I
I'd like
could-
one of you to write
Yeah,
that letter.
I would offer it as well, either way. And we can, I mean, we'll just all look it over regardless if we're all fine.
Okay. Review of masking policy in municipal facilities. Review. David, I suspect you're here for that reason.
Exactly. 2 weeks ago, I told the school board that I thought that going to pass optional was premature. A week ago, with the state governor and Department of Education back to their head, they had no choice but to do that. It was still premature because the Grafton County and several other nearby counties were still in high transmission.
It is optional, though, if the kids want to wear the masks. I mean, my grandkids want to wear their masks.
It's still optional.
Okay.
As of today, I was surprised when I checked back. The CDC now ranks Grafton County as moderate transmission.
Yeah, that's been a few days now.
It
Yeah,
meets-
I've noticed
meets
that.
Meets their criteria for mass optional.
Mhm.
I think it still moves the town to recommend masks, particularly in spaces like this and in the town offices where in a relatively small space, with not necessarily great ventilation, and with a number of both employees and townspeople who may be at higher risk, that it's worthwhile to do that, but I think it makes sense to go with what the CDC says now.
Okay.
I agree. I'm somewhat reluctantly, I suppose, but I think it'd be a nightmare trying to push that forward with this change in the CDC's policy. It's been hard enough as it has been. And
I will be continuing, and my wife will be continuing to wear N95 masks for quite a while longer, I'm sure, but in public. But I think that as a policy for the town. that-
Yeah. So an optional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
at KUA, I've mandated thus far that my students wear masks in class. I'm one of maybe 3 teachers that does that, and I'm probably gonna change my posture on that now.
You know, I would agree. You know, one of the things we talked about is staff. I see a lot of staff often walking out of their office to come across to see me, and then they walk back to their desk to get their mask just to walk across the hall. I say we relax that some so we
Yeah.
can walk back and forth, but
Yeah.
it may be a good idea in open public meetings when we're bringing people together to still strongly recommend that people wear masks in a meeting setting when we know we're gonna be in a smaller area with multiple people.
I think Jack had issued the letter, which is how we approached it with the office and the operations. So I think it makes sense for you as the town manager to decide what goes on in terms of operations within the buildings. And then in terms of the resolution we have standing, I would make a motion that we sunset the resolution relative to face coverings as of March, Tuesday, March 8th at 11:59 PM. So that gives us all of, you know, I don't want to just jump into it, but that would give us all of tomorrow. It would keep everybody safe and during hopefully what's going to be a busy voting day. But I also don't like when they sunset things immediately because it gives you no time to prepare and communicate. Would that be enough time to prepare and communicate?
We can get some, I think it's okay in this sense because we're loosening the restrictions. So if someone doesn't
Yeah.
get that word, the worst thing they're gonna do is wear a mask when they don't need to.
Yeah.
The
So,
other way, I think we need to give a little bit more time to put a mandate in place, but to relax it, I'm sure
Right.
word will get out and we can put some information out as well.
and I have a little bit more to my motion, and that the select board recommends that if you are at high risk for severe illness, to talk to your healthcare provider about whether you need to wear a mask and take other precautions to stay up to date with COVID-19 vaccines and to get tested if you have symptoms and not go out.
Or how about just plain common sense?
These are the CDC. This is the actual CDC. Dave knows what I'm doing. So I mean, that way we're exactly in line with the CDC. It's common sense and it's also, I think at this point, a best practice.
Can you copy and
It's in email, all ready to go.
Oh, of course it is.
Yeah, I agree. We go to CDC and.
Okay, so you have a motion on the table. I'll second that. All in favor?
Um,
Okay, Mascoma Lakeside Park Fund donations, $900 in aggregate. We just need a motion to accept the
I
funds.
move that we accept the $900 for the Mascoma Park.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Administrative items,
Do you know
those
if
are,
those have been ordered?
The bike rack is not ordered.
so the administrative items, we don't need to discuss, do we? Or do we?
I think you need approval on the tax credit, or we just need to say we're signing them.
You can have to sign it. I think that.
That's just it. There is one item in there.
Okay.
Exemptions usually have exemption.
Are they
This
better?
Local Depot Street
approval
one's quite
list is-
complicated though. Do you want to run us through that or?
I can do that a little bit.
Okay.
100% up to speed, but I know we had a dilapidated building at 9 Depot Street. Jack worked with Liam and the select board to mandate that they take the building down. I guess in just general consensus,
Yeah,
really
it's
what this
dangerous.
is the building's down, that value is now off the property. So they're asking for an abatement of taxes from the total value down. We did look, I had a discussion with Julie as we went through this of, you know, if it was pretty much condemned, was it worth this value in the beginning of
Yeah.
the year? And we came up with what I think was a really good middle of the ground valuation of
Mhm.
this. And so
Were they
just asking-
actually living there?
Yeah, I can
I
buy
don't
it.
believe so.
I
No,
think I
it
dropped
was
Yeah.
vacant at the time.
He needs a refund. Does that need a motion or is that something that they're taking care of or
It's, a-
I'm
yeah,
sure it would probably need a motion.
not. Okay, it's, I make a motion that we accept, the Joseph Verdine 90 Post Street abatement request and authorize the town manager's office to refund $1,478.40.
I'll second that.
Do you need like and further abate, or what do you want? I don't know. I'm like, that's. I mean,
Well, they'll still pay property taxes on the land.
Yeah,
Yes.
so and then
Just
from then
means
on.
only
This
we
is
have
for the
other than those
structure
taken
that
care
is no longer there.
Yeah.
Okay, second that. I'll second it. All in favor?
of. Aye.
Okay, other business to come before the board, public comments.
I had one other thing. I just wanted to draw your attention on the administrative items. Again, something that we don't do very often, but I put a letter in there for you to review.
Yes.
And if you would like to, Bill Bellion is retiring from the
Okay.
Canaan Fire Department, and I thought it would be good from the town of Benfield to
Okay.
send him.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
That's
Thank
just-
you.
Nice thing to do.
You want a
So
French translation for him?
we have people on the screen, but I don't see anybody that wants to speak. Is there anybody, does anyone want to make public comment?
Oh, I should keep passing these down, John. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm
thank
hoarding
you.
them.
No, but before we're done, I do have one more
Okay,
comment that I probably should have said during my manager's report, but
that's all right.
I just
Save
thought
the
of it.
best for last.
We continue working and interviewing for the recreation director position. We have narrowed it down to 3 finalists, and again, we went out with a secondary submission. We've given them a homework exercise to do, and we will be reviewing them later this week with the hopes of making at least some sort of offer. I would
Doesn't
say
the
by-
budget have to pass before that you can hire this person?
Before we can fully hire this person, yes, but I think we can move forward at this point.
I saw the notice in the listserv, but I had not seen any notice that Bridget was leaving that position.
Well, she's a part-time.
I know.
She's already notified.
Okay.
She's been very generous and
Oh, yeah.
with her time that she probably doesn't have.
Yes, she's been participating in this
Thank you,
process.
Bridget. Yes. Did I sign the Bill Bellion one?
I think so.
Maybe.
I saw something
Some
that
of them
looked
will-
like a letter.
This is my letter version, but. All right,
I'll
I'll do
double
that.
check the package before we-
I would make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second that.
More stuff?
No, I think we're,
Okay. You're inheriting the
Don't-
yellow folder.
Don't worry, we'll get cold if it.
I vote aye.
Aye.
I'll second that. Aye, whatever. We're good.
Oh, I did have one question. Has the invasive species thing been discussed with the Conservation Commission at all?
It was prior, when the RFP was being released, it was with them, so I can let them know that we now decided and have awarded that. So they will be, I did talk to them about that, they will be meeting with the conservation and other
So they
groups,
know about it.
starting out their
Okay.
process.
And then we'll be officially adjourned.
I believe so.